Welcome back, blade lovers, and you're tuning in to This Old Sword Blade Reviews on YouTube. Thanks for joining me once again, and once again in recent months, I have a new custom knife, and this comes from, also once again, Koenscraft, from the shop of Morgan Koens in Ontario, Canada area. A very lately particularly prolific knife designer and knife maker. Just seems to come up with all sorts of interesting stuff. He comes up with an idea one day and the knife is there the next. He is an amazing maker. One thing about Morgan, you stay tuned to his Instagram channel and you see things pop up, and grab them quick if you want one. I did so with this, and I had actually asked for the handle material. I had some options. This handle material is very interesting, and this is a maple burl that has been stabilized, meaning they use a resin to kind of soak into it, so to speak, and then color it, or really color it first. Anyway, this is the result, which is just an amazing detail of wood grain in there with that really cool purple color. Normally, I'm not the sort of knife collector that gets into these crazy colors, bright blues, bright purples, and what have you. But, you know, I wanted something a little unusual, and yeah, I could have gotten a G10, could have gotten, some kind of micarta, what have you, and he would have done a really good job with that as well. He happened to have turned out 3 of this style of blade altogether, and he modified it along the way, which is very interesting. This knife began life as just kind of a blank, and I'm going to see if I can show you that progression right now. So here's a little video that Morgan had sent me of just the blanks. There's the 3 knives that were made, and that's what they looked like without the handles. So I think it's always interesting, and then in previous knives that I've received from Morgan, he kind of showed me the heat treat and the knife glowing red and all of that. But, by the way, this is a Nitro V steel, so it is stainless. It has been bead blasted. And there is his signature fuller, which you'll see on a lot of his knives. Now, I've been questioned by people who's saying, this knife isn't going to last long, that you're going to be ground right up to that fuller within, a few years or whatnot. Well, first of all, it's not going to be an EDC sort of a knife that you're cutting stuff with and sharpening all the time. It's designed as, number 1, a showpiece, I would say. Number 2, a martial arts style knife that is a ring dagger. So I can back out just a little bit more and get some space here on the tabletop. There we go. So some of the modifications he made, and I'll get into the ring in a moment, some of the modifications he made was that this edge was coming up a little close to this area here, and it was coming all the way back on this side, as I think you might have seen in those in that video. So he decided to make it a little safer, so you could put your thumb on top. He jimped this area here instead of having an edge. So you've got an asymmetrical edge, but it's still almost a full double-edged knife, and these are really sharp edges too. I mean, they're wicked sharp. I'm going to try a paper cut before we're all done. The ring is offset, which is nice, because when the ring, and I'll show you an example in a minute, when the ring is right up top, you don't have the ability to keep that blade at close to a 90 degree for this type of action here. all right? And I don't really have room here to spin it. Back when I was doing a lot of Chinese Kung Fu and we had these practice ring daggers, we would be spinning them all around, as part of the form and whatnot. And it was rather dance-like and elaborate. And that's sort of how a lot of the Chinese martial arts stuff looks and works. But this can be a very useful knife in a karambit style hold, or you've actually got enough handle where you can omit the ring and just grip the knife and put your thumb on top, not too far forward, but you can get it in there, or you can put it on that ramp right there and have kind of a saber grip on it, diagonal across the hand. Getting back to the fuller, I don't see this knife ever getting ground right up to the fuller. Otherwise, you'd have a very, very narrow knife. It's Nitro V. It is hardened up to at least a Rockwell 60, and it's a fairly broad blade. So it's going to get tuned up every now and then with maybe some stropping, but I don't see a lot of removal of material on this. And it's close to a 3/16 stock, so you got plenty of material there. If it was a working knife where you're working in a meat packing plant all day long, and you've seen some of those knives that diminish in size over time by putting them on a grinder or whatnot, this isn't going to be that knife. So I don't see that as an issue. I love the fact that he uses a wide fuller. It just gives such an enhancement to the visual appeal of this knife. Anyway, there you go. The ring has been nicely smoothed, and it is, if you do choose to put your finger in it, I don't think you're going to have any problems with roughness in there. There are no sheaths on Morgan's knives, so you have the option of having a leather sheath made or a Kydex sheath, or make your own Kydex sheath. There are some knife makers such as Morgan who do not make their own sheaths, simply because they're focusing on making the knife, and making the sheath is an extra skill set and extra time. So if you're willing to buy a knife and then get the sheath made as a separate idea, as a separate operation, then he's certainly the way to go. I plan on getting a nice leather sheath made by a fellow by the name of Nixon Leather out on Facebook, and I'm working with him to get a number of sheaths made for Koenscraft knives. Let's get into the measurement part of what we're doing here. So you've got an idea of the overall, which is 9.5 inches, just shy, and a blade length of 4 3/4 inches, and a cutting edge of 4.5 inches. So it's a medium size, small to medium size fixed blade knife. As far as the stock goes, well, let's start with the handle thickness. Handle thickness is 0.67. Really not that thick for a fixed blade knife. And then if we get into the stock and pinch it right there, we get a 0.19 in millimeters. That's 4.9, so almost a 5 millimeter blade stock. So plenty thick, and looking at the point, we don't have any real overly fineness to that point. And we should get the weight as well of obviously the knife alone. And what we've got is 7.37 ounces, 737. Good old plane. So another look around. Really, the craftsmanship is just really exuded here, even down to the details of how he terminates the handle and wraps it around the ring. Again, you got a dull area there so that, and you've got a pretty good stop here, although there's not a guard proper. This blade is wide enough, and it is a like 1.7 in that territory, that 1.6. Pretty wide blade. Not one of those narrow dagger style blades. At any rate, let's do some comparisons. Here is something very similar in concept. And if I can get it out of the sheath, there we go. This is a BlackRock custom boot dagger. In fact, Ken Vihikate calls it the boot. And that's a ring dagger as well. I believe it's going to be longer, yeah. A good deal longer, I'd say close to 2 inches overall, with a blade. So we got a lot more handle on that, don't we? Got a blade that's just about a ½ inch longer, really. About a 5-inch blade on this guy. 2 pronounced choil areas on this. And of course, Ken's signature texturing all over the handle, all over the perimeter, and kind of that black wash look. Very much in keeping with Ken's style of work. He does provide a Kydex sheath, and you can name your color pretty much when you order from Ken. There it is with kind of a deep carry spring clip. So that is the BlackRock ring dagger. And here's another design that's a commercial one made by Fox in Italy. And that is the Monkey Thumper from Ken Vihikate's BlackRock design shop. And again, that's a Fox-made knife. And here we have kind of that angled belly type karambit. Interesting ring on that with a striking provision, and can be held either in the karambit style with using the ring or this way. And we've got a nice ramp for the thumb way out there. Comfortable knife with that rock pattern on the micarta. Beautifully done knife. And you can get a custom version of this as well from Ken, but it's going to run you a little more than the 175 or so that Fox is getting for that commercial version. So let's get these guys out of the way, and we'll bring in just for size comparison, since this is sort of a known knife to many of you. There is the Street Beat by Spyderco, designed by Fred Perrin. Much smaller knife, okay? Much smaller. And because of that, definitely a concealable knife. About the size of a 3.5-inch Griptilian or so. Much handier. I think somebody mentioned recently that they didn't like the seam going down the middle. I guess that's somebody being pretty picky, but for the price of these knives, which I think they're coming in under 100, this is a great buy for a hideout concealment sort of boot knife, if you want to call it that. Getting back to this Koenscraft custom ring dagger, it's just a work of art. It's going to be very deserving of a proper sheath. I'm looking forward to that. And when I get a lot of these Koenscraft knives sheathed up, I'm going to do another video just showing you the complete package. So there you have it. And I did say I was going to do a paper cut, so hey, almost forgot. Here we go. See what kind of edge we got on this guy. Zoom back out a bit. All right. Ooh, as I said, this has a great edge on it. I got to get it started here. Well, so that is my finale for that knife. Hope you enjoyed this review. I've got one more custom Koenscraft coming up, probably in a day or two, and hope you enjoy that one as well. It's going to be a lot different than this one. Don't forget to give this video a like if you would, and subscribe if you haven't already. Got more good content on the way. Be well.